The little girl sat alone on the cold stone steps outside the gleaming corporate tower in downtown Boston. November winds swept through the plaza, scattering golden leaves across polished marble. Her tiny shoulders hunched against an invisible weight, far heavier than the autumn chill. Her expensive silk dress couldn't hide the tremble in her small hands. Designer shoes dangled above the step below, too short to reach the ground. She clutched a worn stuffed rabbit, missing one eye, pressing it against her chest like a shield against the indifferent world. The rabbit had seen better days. Velvet fur matted from years of tight hugs. One ear drooped where stitching had come loose. A button eye stared at the crowd while the other socket remained empty. A battle scar from some long-ago nightmare that still visited on dark nights. Security guards walked past without a glance. Polished shoes clicked against stone in perfect rhythm, never breaking stride. They were paid to watch for threats. A sad child didn't register. Executives hurried by, attention locked on smartphone screens. Million-dollar deals consumed their thoughts. Quarterly reports, merger negotiations, stock prices. A lonely 7-year-old consumed nothing of their precious attention. Assistants rushed through revolving doors. Designer coffee cups clutched like lifelines. Too important, too busy, too blind to see a child who needed nothing more than to be noticed. A woman in red heels nearly tripped over the girl. She muttered something sharp and kept walking without looking back. Her perfume lingered in the cold air like an insult. Nobody stopped. Nobody saw her. Minutes stretched into an hour. The crowd thinned and swelled with the rhythm of corporate life. Lunch hour ending. Meetings resuming. The endless machinery of commerce grinding forward. Still the girl sat. Still she waited. For what? Perhaps even she didn't know. Until he saw her. Brennan Caldwell paused mid-stride. His worn maintenance uniform created a stark contrast against the polished entrance of Ashford Technologies. Navy blue fabric faded at the elbows from years of honest work. Steel-toed boots scuffed and practical. A name patch above the pocket read simply Caldwell. At 44, his weathered face told stories his lips rarely shared. 15 years in special forces had carved deep lines around his gray eyes. 3 years of single fatherhood had added more. Silver touched his temples now, distinguished rather than aged. His hands were calloused from work both military and civilian. He surveyed the scene with eyes trained to notice what others missed. His posture shifted automatically to a subtle defensive stance. Old habits from Afghan mountains and Iraqi deserts never quite faded. Even now, years removed from combat, he cataloged exits and assessed threats without conscious thought. But what caught his attention wasn't a threat. It was the way her shoulders curved inward, the death grip on that rabbit, the careful blankness in young eyes that should sparkle with mischief and wonder. He recognized that posture, had seen it in mirrors during the darkest days after Melissa's death, had watched his own son wear it like armor after the funeral. Brennan knelt slowly before the child, his movement deliberate, non-threatening. The brown paper lunch bag in his calloused hand crinkled as he opened it. The girl looked up, startled. Red-rimmed green eyes met his steady gaze. She didn't speak, just stared with the weariness of someone who had learned too young that the world could be cruel and indifferent, 7 years old. Maybe. The same age as Cormac. Brennan nodded as if they'd had an entire conversation. As if her silence spoke volumes, he understood perfectly. Rough day? No answer. Just those ancient eyes in a child's face. Yeah, I get those too. He pulled out a sandwich wrapped in wax paper. Turkey and Swiss on wheat bread. Nothing fancy. But his boy Cormac always said it was the best sandwich in 3 counties. Brennan had made the same lunch every morning for 3 years. Same bread, same cheese, same love folded carefully into wax paper. He tore it in half. The larger portion extended toward the girl. Seems like you could use this more than me. Her small hand reached out hesitantly, fingers ice cold against his weathered palm. She took the offering like it might disappear if she moved too quickly. She whispered something, so soft he almost missed it beneath the wind. "Rosalie." "Nice to meet you, Rosalie. I'm Brennan." He settled beside her on the step, careful to leave respectful space between them. The marble was cold through his work pants, but he'd sat in worse places for worse reasons. "Mind if I join you for lunch?" She nodded, a tiny movement. Permission granted. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment. Brennan took a bite of his half. Rosalie studied hers like it might vanish if she blinked. "Your rabbit has a brave face." Rosalie looked at the stuffed animal in her lap. Something flickered in her eyes. Life returning to a frozen pond. "His name is Captain Whiskers. He lost his eye being brave in a battle. Sounds like a true soldier." For the first time, something like a smile ghosted across her face. It transformed her features, hinting at the happy child hiding beneath the sadness. "He is. Daddy gave him to me, before he went away." The words hit Brennan like a physical blow. He knew that phrase, had heard Cormac use it about Melissa, the careful language children develop to discuss unbearable loss without breaking apart. "Your daddy sounds like he knew how to pick good protectors." She hugged the rabbit tighter. "He was the bravest person in the whole world. That's what Mommy says. But he didn't come back from the war." As she took a small bite of sandwich, Brennan felt eyes boring into his back. Calculating. Assessing. The weight of surveillance he learned to recognize across a dozen countries and countless missions. Someone was watching. The click of expensive heels on stone stopped directly behind him. Neither Brennan nor Rosalie noticed the sleek, black sedan parked across the street, or the man inside lifting a telephoto lens. Those photographs would surface later, changing everything in ways neither could imagine. 6 hours earlier, Brennan's day had begun like every other for the past 3 years. 4:30 in the morning. A soft beep from his watch alarm. He silenced it before the second chirp. In terrain where sound meant death, that habit had saved his life more than once. Now it simply let his son sleep peacefully. His small apartment occupied the third floor of a converted brownstone in South Boston. 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, a kitchen that doubled as dining room and home office, worn furniture bought secondhand, walls that needed painting, pipes that groaned in winter. Everything they owned fit within these modest walls. Everything that mattered slept in the room down the hall. Brennan moved silently to his son's door, pushed it open inch by inch, listened with the attention of a man who had monitored breathing in far more dangerous circumstances. Cormac's chest rose and fell steadily. No wheezing tonight. No rattling in those small lungs that had caused so many emergency room visits. So many sleepless nights. So many prayers from a man who had forgotten how to pray until his son couldn't breathe. Brennan placed a gentle hand on the boy's forehead. Cool, no fever. He allowed himself one moment of relief before beginning his morning ritual. The kitchen came alive in pre-dawn darkness, coffee brewing strong and black. Cormac's medications arranged by the breakfast plate in precise order. 3 pills, 1 inhaler, a nebulizer standing ready if needed, lunch packed with military precision, 1 sandwich cut diagonally because Cormac insisted triangles tasted better than rectangles, an apple polished until it shone, a juice box, a note tucked inside that read, "You're braver than you know. Love, Dad." Then the bills. Brennan sorted them into 3 piles on the scarred kitchen table. The same ritual every morning, the same sinking feeling in his chest. Paid, a small stack, electric bill, water. The minimum payments that kept lights on and water running and kept his son warm. Must pay. Rent due in 6 days. Phone bill. The insurance payment that kept Cormac's medications within reach instead of impossible. Impossible. The pile that grew taller each month. Medical statements stamped in angry red, past due notices, collection warnings, physical therapy bills from when Brennan's knee gave out 6 months ago. Credit card debt accumulated during Melissa's final months, when he couldn't work and couldn't stop hoping for a miracle that never came. He stared at Cormac's inhaler prescription. Refill needed by Friday. $175 without insurance. Their insurance covered 80%. 20% of expensive was still too much when you had $47 to last until payday. His jaw tightened as he tucked his last 20 into Cormac's lunch money envelope. The boy needed to eat, needed to feel normal at school, needed to not know how close to the edge they walked every single month. Brennan would skip lunch. Again. He'd survived 3 days without food during an operation gone wrong in the mountains of Afghanistan. A missed meal meant nothing compared to his son's next breath. Dad. Brennan turned. Cormac stood in the doorway, 7 years old, hair a riot of brown curls that refused to be tamed, pajamas 2 sizes too big because hand-me-downs came in whatever size the neighbor's son had outgrown. He looked exactly like Melissa, the same determined chin, the same way his nose crinkled when thinking, the same warm brown eyes that saw more than most adults ever did. Sometimes looking at him hurt worse than any wound Brennan had ever taken in combat. Sometimes it was the only thing keeping him alive. You're doing the worry face again. Brennan's expression softened immediately. Just thinking, buddy. How's the breathing this morning? Good. Cormac shuffled to the table and climbed onto his chair. His eyes landed on his father's lunch bag, frowned at its obvious emptiness. Did you make another sandwich sacrifice to the lunch gods? What makes you say that, Mac? Your lunch bag looks pretty empty. Cormac poked the flattened brown paper with one finger. You always say soldiers need fuel. That's what you tell me when I don't want to eat my vegetables. Sharp eyes, just like your old man. Brennan ruffled his son's hair, hiding the tightness in his chest behind a practiced smile. Mrs. Pemberton made too much casserole yesterday. She's sending me with leftovers. The lie came easily, cushioned by necessity, protected by love. Cormac didn't need to know that Mrs. Pemberton had been visiting her sister in Connecticut all week, or that Brennan would work through lunch with only coffee to fill his stomach. What mattered was the medicine, the rent, keeping his boy's world intact. Get ready for school, soldier. Bus comes in 20. Brennan straightened and gave a playful salute. Cormac returned it with giggling seriousness, small hand pressed firmly against his forehead. Sir, yes, sir. When the boy disappeared to get dressed, Brennan leaned against the counter, eyes closed, shoulders slumped. Just for one moment. Just long enough to feel the weight he carried every single day without complaint. The photograph on the refrigerator caught his attention, held by a faded magnet from a beach vacation that felt like another lifetime. 2 men in desert camouflage, arms slung around each other's shoulders, both grinning at the camera like they'd won the lottery instead of just surviving another patrol in hostile territory. Brennan on the left, younger, lighter, eyes that hadn't yet learned to carry grief like a second skin. Nathan Ashford on the right, dark hair, easy smile, the kind of natural leader who made everyone around him believe they could accomplish anything. The words scrawled at the bottom in Nathan's distinctive handwriting, Kandahar 2019. Brothers forever? Brennan touched the image with calloused fingers. The familiar ache in his chest flared, hot and sharp. I'm keeping my promise, Nathan, no matter what it takes. 2 hours after the sandwich, Brennan stood in an office that cost more than everything he'd ever owned combined. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the Boston skyline. Late autumn sunlight streamed through pristine glass, illuminating marble floors polished to mirror perfection. Original artwork hung on walls. A desk carved from a single piece of mahogany dominated the room like a throne. Behind that throne sat the woman who had been watching him on the steps. Victoria Ashford, CEO of Ashford Technologies, 35 years old. Dark hair pulled back in a severe bun that allowed no softness. Tailored charcoal suit that probably cost more than Brennan's monthly rent. Eyes like winter ice over deep water. Beautiful, untouchable, dangerous. She slid a photograph across the gleaming desk. Brennan's breath caught in his throat. The same image from his refrigerator. The same two soldiers. The same scrawled words. You know who this is. Not a question, a statement, an accusation. Nathan Ashford. His voice came out rougher than intended. The name alone scraped against wounds that had never fully healed. My commanding officer, my friend, my brother in everything but blood. Victoria's ice blue eyes never left his face, searching for deception, finding none. My husband, Rosalie's father. Her voice carried edges sharp enough to draw blood. And according to classified military records, you were the last person to see him alive. The room tilted, marble and mahogany blurred at the edges of his vision. All these years, all these months working in this building, fixing pipes beneath executive offices, replacing light fixtures in conference rooms. He'd taken the job because it was close to Cormac's school, because the hours allowed him to drop off and pick up, because it paid slightly better than other maintenance positions. He'd never known whose building he was cleaning. 5 years, Mr. Caldwell. Victoria's voice cut through his spiral like a blade. 5 years I've wondered what happened in Kandahar, why my husband didn't come home, why you survived when he didn't, why you ended up working in my building. I didn't know. Brennan forced the words through a tight throat. I swear to you, Mrs. Ashford, I had no idea you were Nathan's wife. Victoria stood and walked to the window. Her reflection in the glass showed a woman holding herself together through sheer force of will. Rosalie ran away from her nanny this morning. 20 trained security professionals couldn't find her. She paused. But you did. You stopped when everyone else walked past. Heavy silence stretched between them. Why? The question hung in the air like smoke. Because she looked like my son did after his mother's funeral. Lost, confused, trying to be brave when the world stopped making sense. Something shifted in Victoria's expression, a crack in the ice. Your wife? 3 years ago. Car accident. Drunk driver ran a red light. She died before the ambulance arrived, before I could say goodbye. Victoria was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke again, her voice had lost some of its razor edge. Do you know what they call me? The board members who think I can't hear them. The executives who smile to my face and plot behind my back? Brennan waited. The ice widow. The CEO without a heart. Victoria almost laughed, but the sound held no humor. 5 years I've built walls to protect Rosalie and myself. And still my daughter runs. Still she searches for someone who actually sees her. I understand that search. More than you know. Victoria returned to her desk and pulled a folder from a locked drawer. I have a proposition. Triple your current salary, comprehensive health insurance for you and your son, retroactive coverage for any outstanding medical expenses. Brennan didn't touch the folder. What would I owe you? Someone inside this company is trying to steal technology my husband developed. Technology he spent years perfecting. Technology he died protecting. Her voice hardened to steel. I need someone I can trust. Someone who can move through this building without raising suspicion. Someone with your particular skills. You want me to find a thief? I want you to find a traitor. Victoria met his gaze directly, and I believe that traitor had something to do with Nathan's death. The words hit like shrapnel. Brennan finally reached for the folder. The salary figure blurred before his eyes. Enough to cover Cormac's medical bills. Enough to move them to a safer neighborhood. Enough to give his son the life Melissa had always dreamed of. But that wasn't why he would say yes. I'll do it. You haven't even heard the details. I made Nathan a promise before Kandahar to protect his family if he didn't come home. Nathan would tell you, "I never break my word." For a moment, the mask slipped entirely. Brennan saw the exhausted, grieving widow beneath the CEO facade, the mother who worried about her daughter, the woman who still reached for her husband's side of the bed. Then the walls rebuilt themselves. "Report to my office tomorrow at 7. We have work to do." 2 weeks transformed Brennan's world. He traded his maintenance uniform for suits that still felt like costumes. Italian wool instead of cotton blend. Leather shoes instead of steel-toed boots. But his eyes remained the same. Watching, cataloging, remembering. He learned the rhythms of Ashford Technologies. Who arrived early, who stayed late, who whispered in corners when they thought no one was listening. And he learned about Marcus Thornton. The chief operating officer was 55 years old. Silver temples perfectly styled, Harvard MBA framed on his wall. 3 decades of corporate experience on his resume. His smile never reached his eyes. His handshakes lingered a moment too long. He moved through the building like he already owned it. Brennan recognized the type. Had seen them in war zones. Men who smiled while planning destruction. Men who wore expensive suits instead of combat gear, but carried the same cold calculation. The executive bathroom became Brennan's surveillance point. Amazing what people discussed when they thought only the plumber was listening. "Victoria is becoming paranoid." Thornton's voice echoed off marble tiles. "Hiring a maintenance worker as a corporate culture consultant." "Ridiculous," his companion replied quietly. A voice Brennan cataloged for later identification. He has military background. Served with Nathan Ashford. A long pause. Heavy with implication. "Interesting. Look into him thoroughly. If he knows anything about Kandahar, we should be careful. If he starts asking the wrong questions, we'll handle it the same way we handled problems before. Footsteps. Fading." Brennan kept his breathing steady. His hands continued their work. But his mind was racing. Thornton hadn't asked what Kandahar was, hadn't expressed confusion at the mention of a classified mission. He already knew, and that knowledge changed everything. Rosalie appeared in Victoria's office 3 days later. The afternoon sun cast long shadows through the windows. Victoria sat at her desk, reviewing documents. Brennan stood near the door, discussing security protocols. A small voice cut through their conversation. "Mr. Sandwich." Victoria's head snapped up. Brennan turned. Rosalie stood in the doorway. Captain Whiskers tucked under her arm. School uniform wrinkled. Green eyes bright for the first time since Brennan had met her. She ran to him without hesitation. "How did you get past the security desk?" "I told them I had important business." She grinned. "And I know the back stairs." Victoria almost smiled. The expression transformed her face completely, made her look younger, softer, human. Rosalie tugged at Brennan's sleeve. "I made you something." She presented a sheet of construction paper, crayon drawing, 3 figures holding hands. A tall man with brown hair, a woman with dark hair pulled back, a small girl in the middle. "This is my family, see? Mommy, me, and Daddy. But Daddy only lives in the sky now. That's why I drew clouds around him." Victoria's hand pressed against her heart. Rosalie turned to Brennan with startling directness. "Do you have a family?" "I have a son. His name is Cormac. He's about your age." Her eyes widened. "Does he like dinosaurs?" "He draws them, with laser eyes." "That's amazing." She bounced on her heels. "Can I meet him? Can I see the laser eye dinosaurs?" "Rosalie." Victoria's voice carried a gentle warning. "But Mommy, he has a son who draws dinosaurs with laser eyes." Brennan knelt to her level. "Maybe someday. But first, tell me more about Captain Whiskers. How did he lose his eye?" Her expression shifted. Something ancient flickered in those young eyes. "Daddy gave him to me before he went away. He said Captain Whiskers would protect me when he couldn't. And then Captain Whiskers got hurt protecting me from a bad dream. That's how he lost his eye. Sounds like a true hero. He is. She studied Brennan for a long moment. Captain Whiskers says you have sad eyes like mommy, because you lost someone too. But Captain Whiskers also says people with the same sad eyes can help each other feel less sad. Is that true? The room fell completely silent. A 7-year-old had just articulated what two broken adults had been dancing around for weeks. Victoria's eyes met Brennan's across the room. Something passed between them. Recognition, understanding, permission to feel something other than grief. That night, after Rosalie had been sent home with her nanny, Victoria revealed the truth. The office was dark except for the glow of her laptop screen. City lights glittered beyond the windows. 2 cups of coffee sat cooling on her desk, forgotten. Project Sentinel. Victoria pulled up files encrypted behind multiple firewalls. A quantum encryption system Nathan spent 5 years developing. Technology that could revolutionize global security. Worth billions. Worth killing for. Someone inside this company is systematically creating backdoors in the system. Victoria's fingers flew across the keyboard. 47 security protocol changes in 3 months, all authorized by executive override. Thornton? I believe so, but I can't prove it. Every time I gather evidence, it disappears. There's more. About Kandahar. Brennan's chest tightened. Nathan didn't die because the mission failed. He died because it succeeded. He discovered who was selling American technology to foreign powers. He found names, accounts, connections reaching into the highest levels, and they killed him to keep him quiet. The words crashed over Brennan like ice water. All these years of guilt, the nightmares that woke him gasping. Nathan's voice on the radio, calm even as everything went wrong. Get the wounded out, Brennan. That's an order. I'm not leaving you. That's an order. Go. I'll be right behind you. He wasn't right behind. He was buying time, sacrificing himself. You followed Nathan's orders that night. Victoria moved closer. He commanded you to extract the wounded. He knew he wasn't coming out. He chose to sacrifice himself so you could survive. Brennan's voice broke. Why didn't he tell me? Because you would never have left him voluntarily, so he made it an order. The compass. Brennan pulled a small metal object from his pocket. Worn brass, scratched glass. Nathan gave this to me before the mission. Called it his lucky charm. Victoria's eyes widened. She took it carefully. Found a hidden seam. Pressed. The bottom popped open. Inside sat a microchip smaller than a grain of rice. The final fragment. Nathan split the encryption key into 5 pieces, hidden separately. Thornton has found 3. This is the 5th. He hid it in the one thing I'd never throw away. He trusted you with everything. The parking garage meeting happened at 11 that night. Level B3. Concrete and shadows. The smell of oil and exhaust. Dr. Mei Lin Zhao was Nathan's lead encryption engineer, a woman who had worked beside him for years. Who understood Sentinel's architecture better than anyone alive? She handed Brennan a tablet filled with evidence. Thornton has altered 47 protocols, all creating backdoors. Can you prove he's connected to foreign agents? This is everything I found. Financial transactions to offshore accounts, communications with known technology brokers. She lowered her voice. There's something worse. Full access to Sentinel requires biometric verification. Nathan's DNA, which is no longer available. After his death, only 2 people share enough genetic markers to substitute, Victoria and Rosalie. Brennan felt ice form in his veins. If Thornton knows this? Before she could respond, gunfire erupted. Zhao fell, blood blooming on her shoulder. Brennan moved on instinct, pulled her behind a concrete pillar. Go! Zhao gasped. Warn Victoria! Rosalie is the target! The black sedan appeared on the highway. Brennan was driving 90, phone pressed to his ear. Victoria wasn't answering. The sedan matched his speed. Window rolled down. Colonel Raymond Graves, silver-haired now, face carved with new lines. But those commanding eyes remained unchanged. "Pull over, Caldwell. That address Victoria texted you is a trap." "Colonel? I've been tracking Thornton for 5 years. He works for the same people who ambushed us in Kandahar." "Victoria and Rosalie?" "Safe. I have teams watching them." Graves handed over a USB drive. "Everything I've collected, financial records, communications with foreign operatives, photographs of meetings that were never officially scheduled." "What's the plan?" "Thornton is calling a board meeting tomorrow morning, going to push a vote of no confidence against Victoria, remove her from power. Then he'll have unrestricted access to Sentinel and the fragments, including your compass. Not if I stop him." They clasped hands through the car windows. "For Nathan. For Nathan." Dawn painted the sky pink and gold as Brennan led Rosalie into the elementary school. Mrs. Pemberton waited in a quiet classroom, 70 years old, white hair, soft hands that had raised 4 children. Beside her stood Cormac, already working on a drawing. The children regarded each other. "Cool rabbit," Cormac pointed. "What happened to his eye?" "He lost it being brave in a battle." "Awesome. Like a soldier?" "Better. He protects people from bad dreams." Within minutes, they were bent over the same paper. Captain Whiskers propped between them. Dinosaurs and rabbits defending a crayon castle. Rosalie caught Brennan's sleeve before he could leave. "You're going to save Mommy? I promise." Her eyes grew serious. "Daddy promised to come back too." "Your daddy kept his promise in a different way, Rosalie. He sent me to protect you and your mother." She considered this. "Captain Whiskers says sometimes grown-ups need to be saved by love. Not superpowers. Maybe we can all be a family." The family of people with sad eyes. Colonel Graves waited in the service corridor. 3 former Special Forces operators flanked the exits, all wearing maintenance uniforms, all carrying concealed weapons. "You sure about this, Caldwell?" "Nathan trusted you with his life. I'm trusting you with his family. We've got every exit covered. FBI is standing by in the lobby." "For Nathan! For Nathan!" 7:30 in the morning. The boardroom filled with tension thick enough to taste. Marcus Thornton stood at the head of the table. Silver hair perfect. Custom suit immaculate. Confident smile firmly in place. Victoria Ashford's continued absence proves my point. Her leadership has become erratic. Her judgment questionable. Board members shifted uncomfortably. The door opened. Victoria entered. Brennan at her side. Thornton's composure flickered. She held up the compass. "This belonged to my husband. He gave it to Sergeant Caldwell before his final mission." She opened the casing. The microchip glinted. It contains the final encryption key to Project Sentinel. The key Marcus Thornton has been searching for. The key that proves he's been systematically trying to steal technology worth billions. She plugged the compass into the presentation system. Evidence flooded the screens. Financial transactions to offshore accounts. Surveillance photographs of Thornton meeting with known foreign operatives. Communication intercepts detailing plans to sell Sentinel. Marcus Thornton has been selling Ashford technology to foreign powers for 3 years, and he provided the intelligence that led to my husband's death. The room erupted. "This is fabrication, slander. Every document is independently verifiable. The FBI is waiting outside." Thornton's hand moved toward his jacket. Brennan recognized the motion, had seen it 1,000 times. He moved. 3 steps. The gun clattered to the floor. Thornton hit the marble hard. Brennan had him pinned in seconds. The doors burst open. FBI agents flooded the room. "Marcus Thornton, you are under arrest for espionage, conspiracy to commit murder, and treason against the United States." As they dragged him away in handcuffs, Thornton's eyes found Brennan. "This isn't over. For you, it is." Hours later. Victoria's office. Sunset painting the windows gold. May Lynn is out of surgery. She wants to testify against everyone involved. Brennan allowed himself a small smile. She will, after she heals. At 4 o'clock, Rosalie video called from Mrs. Pemberton's classroom. Mommy, Cormac's dinosaurs protecting Captain Whiskers. They're best friends. Victoria watched Brennan's face transform when he saw his son. The soldier disappeared. Only the father remained. 2 broken people, 2 wounded children, 4 hearts learning to beat together. The sun was setting when they finally found themselves alone. I owe you an apology, Victoria turned from the window. When I learned you survived while Nathan didn't. You thought I abandoned him? She nodded. I blame myself too. For years. You shouldn't have. Nathan chose to sacrifice himself. He wanted you to live. Victoria stepped closer. I don't love you because you saved my company. I don't love you because of Nathan or guilt or obligation. I love you because you gave half your only sandwich to a child you'd never met. Brennan looked at this fierce, beautiful, broken woman. I love you, Victoria, because you're the first person who made me want a future again. Their kiss was gentle, 2 people learning to hope. 1 year later, 4 people sat on the stone steps of Ashford Technologies. Brennan, Victoria, Rosalie, Cormac. 4 sandwiches between them. Turkey and Swiss. Dad, why are we eating lunch here? Because this is where I met your mom. Rosalie giggled. You gave me half your sandwich. I thought you were a secret superhero. Dad is a superhero. Cormac nodded serially. He catches bad guys. Captain Whiskers sat between them, his missing eye replaced with a blue button. Cormac's contribution. A black sedan pulled up. Colonel Graves emerged. Uncle Ray. Rosalie ran to hug him. He produced a small medal. For Captain Whiskers. For bravery. Can my dinosaur get one too? I'll submit the paperwork. Before leaving, Graves pressed a photograph into Brennan's hand. 3 soldiers. Nathan. Brennan. Graves. On the back. Brothers forever. Some promises are worth remembering. Victoria leaned against Brennan's shoulder. Nathan would have loved this. He knows, he always knew. Rosalie came running back. Mommy, Daddy Brennan, Cormac wants a sister and I want a brother. Can you give us a baby? Victoria and Brennan looked at each other and laughed. We'll think about it. You have to promise. Brennan pulled everyone close. I promise. They sat as afternoon light softened. 4 people, 4 sandwiches, a family built from broken pieces. Some debts could never be fully repaid, but maybe they just needed to be transformed into a family, into love, into a new beginning. And it had all started with half a sandwich.